G'day, I'm Stephen Page from Provan, Family and Fertility Lawyers in Brisbane. Thank you for watching and listening to the Australian Family and Fertility Law podcast. Today I'm talking about the 8 rules for known sperm donation in Australia. Well, of course, these are 8 rules that I've written, but I think from the experience I've had in this subject, and I've been writing these agreements since about 2013, these are the ones that I think stand out. Number 1, when you've got a sperm donor, don't have it as an ex. I've certainly seen a former partner be the sperm donor and it's worked. But if there is any doubt about whether he is intending or not intending to be a parent, avoid. Because if you get it wrong, then what happens? You end up with a train wreck of a case. You go over there to the family court, you spend tens of thousands, maybe over $100,000 each, and for what? A mess about what your relationship is. So you've got to have clarity about what the roles are. Now, I've certainly had cases where women have split up from men and they've agreed that he is to be the donor, but you have to do this very, very, very carefully, because if you don't, you'll make an absolute hash of it and it'll just be a disaster. So be very careful about it. Rule number 2, do it before pregnancy. Don't, after you're already pregnant, say, oh, we should get an agreement. No, the agreement should be done before you're pregnant. Because if there's a royal change of mind by the other side during the pregnancy, too late. You're stuck. So there should be clarity before the attempt at pregnancy occurs about what is his role and what is your role. Who is the parent or who are the parents here? Now, if you've got a lesbian couple or a heterosexual couple who are the recipients and they both consent to the procedure, the law is quite clear. They are the parents and the donor is not. But the donor's partner may be a parent. And that's because, well, the High Court told us in 2019 that there might, they opened the door a bit, be more than 2 parents allowed under the Family Law Act. The donor's not a parent, but the partner might be based on intention. So it's important to get that all clarified before pregnancy. Number 3, not via sex. You may think, well, if you go onto some of the websites, they talk about AI and NI. Oh, well, we'll have a child via NI, natural insemination. That doesn't make any difference. He's not a parent. Well, he might be. The only recent reported case on that is 30 years old. And let me go through the facts of it. A man was in a relationship with a woman. And then one day she says, oh, I'm bisexual. And they split up. Next thing you know, she's got a girlfriend and then they become partners. And then the couple say, oh, we'd like to have a child. Can you be our sperm donor? And we're insistent that the man who agreed has sex with his former partner. So there's rule number 1, isn't it? The child was conceived. Everything was happy. They agreed that he was not to be a parent, that they would be the parents. Now these days, of course, we'd say, well, they're a couple, so they're both the parents and he's not. But just assume she's single. The women split up. The mother, and by this means the birth mother, put in an application for Social Security, these days Centrelink. Well, of course, Centrelink want to see, well, is there someone who can pay child support here so less burden on the taxpayer? And immediately going after the man. And he said, hang on, we agreed that I wasn't going to be the parent. The judge says, tough luck. You had sex with her, you're a parent. Intention is irrelevant. Now, the High Court in 2019 has talked about intention relating to children born through assisted reproductive treatment. It hasn't covered children born through natural conception. There's been one case in Canada, one case in South Africa where they've said intention's relevant. I just don't know in Australia. If you're concerned about it, just think these 2 words. if you conceive naturally, these two words should be front of mind. Child support. If the case law is that the man is the parent, he has 18 years potentially of child support in front of him. And the other two words, parental responsibility. And finally, the last word, inheritance, potential inheritance. So get that clear. Number 4, have fertility counselling. So whether you have an at-home insemination or you go through an IVF clinic, either with IUI, intrauterine insemination, in other words, a fancy type of artificial insemination, or IVF, have fertility counselling. You go through an IVF clinic, you must have fertility counselling. But even if you don't go through an IVF clinic with an at-home insemination, get it. Why? Because it really determines what your intentions are. When you've set the expectations and clarified those in fertility counselling, where everyone is informed, and it might be 4, or in one case I've had 5 people, then it's clear what's our role. And that reduces risk. And then they write a report all about it, which in turn reduces risk. I can't emphasise enough the necessity to go to an infertility counsellor, not just any counsellor, not just any psychologist, but someone who is a member of the Australian and New Zealand Infertility Counsellors Association, ANZICA, and go there. Reduce the risk. Number 5, medical tests, and go to an IVF clinic. It's not about going to the IVF clinic that's magical, it's the fact that there are protocols about medical tests. And you might be able to go through your GP, but I suggest there are 2 things you want to look at. First, the one that should be front of mind, is there going to be transmission of an STI of some kind? For example, is the child going to get chlamydia or syphilis or HIV? And are you, whether you're a donor or recipient, unknowingly carrying an inheritable condition that, matched with that other party, then transmit, for example, cystic fibrosis to your child or a worse condition? So you can get screening for that and get medical advice about it. But if you don't do that, then you're not getting screening, and you could potentially cause, imagine if you have a child born through cystic fibrosis, knowing it was avoidable if you'd had the screening done. Number 6, have a written, properly drafted agreement. And you can download one from the web. I was shown a draft of one recently, and well, it's rubbish. It doesn't cost much to get a properly drafted agreement. We have fixed fees covering that. But it's important to get it done right, to make plain who's a parent, who's not a parent, that it's altruistic. What are the expectations about contact? They can't bind the family court about what the expectations are, but certainly it reduces risk. If you reduce risk, then most of the pain goes away. Now, as we know from product disclosure statements about financial products, prior performance is not a guarantee of future performance, but it's a pretty good indicator. And with my agreements that I and my firm have been writing since 2013 thereabouts, until now, 13 years later, not one case has ever been litigated because we have a thorough process to avoid risk. Next one, it's got to be altruistic, it can't be commercial. If it's a commercial sperm donation, then you can go to jail for up to 15 years. It's really that simple. Altruistic sperm donation, however, is lawful. And I should say, I said there are eight grounds, but I'd say there's probably 9 rules. And the next one is you meet. And that happens with fertility counselling. But I had one recently where a couple wanted the man's sperm, but the woman who was going to get it in a cup and give to the other woman. And so the man was not actually going to meet the recipient. I just think that's terrible. It's a life-changing process for all involved. And sperm donors men who are prepared to be sperm donors, I think, are amazing for giving the gift of life. But you should be meeting because you shouldn't be strangers. It's important to have that relationship for the sake of the child. That's what should be the focus. And then the last one, the last rule is, where available, sign up to the Central Donor Registry. New South Wales, ACT and Queensland allow that, and there's flexibility in New South Wales. In ACT it's the parents who've got to sign up. In Queensland it's got to be everybody. But I think it's important to do that so your child will always know, have the ability to find out where they came from. And Queensland has taken that a step further, that the descendants can find out. However many generations from now, they can find out where their ancestor came from. I just think that's really important. Going through an IVF clinic, you've got to do that, but if you're doing the at-home insemination, make sure in a child-focused manner you've signed up to the Central Donor Registry. I hope those laws spread across the land, but at this stage they haven't. Thank you for watching and listening to the Australian Family and Fertility Law Podcast. I'm Stephen Page from Page Provan Family and Fertility Lawyers in Brisbane.